Eyes wide open.
If you think Dogman is just a legend, keep watching. From shadowy figures stalking rural backroads, from towering wolf-like creatures emerging from the treeline, these sightings have left witnesses shaken, speechless, and forever changed. If you've ever wondered what really growls in the wilderness after sunset, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's take a look.
There's a specific moment in every Dogman encounter where the witness stops being a spectator and starts to become prey. It's not when they hear something. It's not when they first see it. It's when they realize it sees them. But tonight is not about ranking these episodes or proving these stories. It's about sitting with these encounters that stay with you. No distractions, just stories. So pull the curtains, turn the lights down, grab that cup of coffee because you're going to need it.
My grandfather refused to drive through certain parts of Appalachia at night, and he never told us why. When he had passed away, we found a note in his wallet, and it said, "If you see something tall standing at the tree line, don't use your horn. Don't flash your lights. Just drive." On the back of the note, he wrote one more line. "It'll remember your face."
You see a dogman while hiking, it's not. And it's not the dogman that you see that you have to worry about, because I do believe they work in a pack, just like any other canine species will. And the one that you see is the one that is going to jump scare you.
A lot of people in his group, sidebar, know each other, have known each other all their life, but they don't share those stories because you are crazy.
Yep.
I don't want to be pegged as that person.
Let me tell you that is such a true statement. The story I told you guys about the guy that was hunting in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was 15 and now he's in his upper 30s now. I saw a documentary on YouTube of Dogman, and I think it was about Dogman in Kentucky. And it was just people, being interviewed about their experiences. The first people I saw was a father-son group. They were talking about their experience with the Dogman. Sent the link to this guy up in Kentucky, said, "Hey, check this out. It's all about the Dogman in your area." And he goes, "I know that guy. We go fishing together all the time. I never knew he had a Dogman encounter."
Wow.
And it's the same reason.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it.
Don't talk. Yeah. That's the way I am. I don't.
Well, when you get laughed at 2 or 3 times, you quit.
That's right.
You quit. You pick real.
Or you're a member of a small Baptist church and you come in and you have people that are judgmental. They're like, well, what has your family done to make you see things like this or whatever? You don't want to be judged.
They want to cast a demon out of you.
That's right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. In correlation to that, Dogman is another big cryptid that walks around. Does that also have negative interactions with canines as well?
Yeah, so here's the thing with Dogman. There's a website called North American Dogman Project everyone should check out. And then you got to look up Catherine Cross. Catherine Cross, or her tombstone, says killed by human wolves. But when you travel to this town, these people, they'll chase you out of the town, because when it comes to Dogman, you have groups that use sequestered knowledge, like esoteric information, what we would call witchcraft, but it's just esoteric information. They can transform themselves into a wolf-like being. But if you look all throughout history, on every continent, they talk about tribes of people who had dog faces. Christopher Columbus, his brother, in his earlier text, he spoke about encountering a tribe of people with dog faces here on the American mainland. So if all of these stories are showing up all across the world, every continent, last year there were 44,000 Dogman reports. 44,000 people making this up? I doubt it.
I'm in my late 30s, and I've lived in Tomahawk most of my life. I'm a small engine mechanic in a small shop, in a small town, but that's about all that's small about me, as my kids like to say. I'm a big guy with a big personality, and I don't scare easily. I spend most of my free time with my kids, though I've been working a lot of weekends this summer. Most days I fix ATVs, lawnmowers, wave runners, snowmobiles, and the occasional pickup. That day was nothing unusual. I closed up the shop, grabbed a gas station coffee, and decided to take the back way home for a little peace and quiet before stepping into a noisy house. The back road has always been my reset button. No stoplights, no tailgaters, just the trees pressing in on both sides. I figured it would give me 10 minutes to clear my head before the evening routine with the kids. I was driving down the road, had the windows down, and could hear the crickets outside. Nothing unusual. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw something up ahead between the trees, like a large, dark, broad-shouldered figure, moving low to the ground, but just enough to stand out against the brush. I thought it might be a bear, or maybe even a moose, and wanted to try to get it on video for my kids. I eased off the gas and leaned forward for a better look, and had just hit record on my phone when it rose up out of the brush, and I realized it was definitely not a bear or a moose. It was about 30 yards in, but it stayed with me, level with the truck. Didn't bolt away, didn't run off, it kept pace, like it was walking along the edge for a reason. I let off the gas and eased the truck into reverse, one hand on the wheel, phone steady in the other. It was moving towards me, and then it threw its arms out wide. One motion, then again. Not frantic, not clumsy, deliberate. Like it was saying, plain as day, stay out of here. You can't see it as well in the video, but I swear, up close it looked like a giant wild dog, muzzle and all, and had to have been 7 or 8 feet tall at least. I couldn't believe my eyes. My gut was screaming. I lifted the phone and just started firing off shots through the brush. My hands were shaking. No idea what I was even catching, just click after click, while trying not to drive off the road. My chest started tightening, and suddenly all I wanted was to get out. I shoved the phone down, gripped the wheel, and tore off. That drive home was the longest 10 minutes of my life. Every shadow between the trees felt like it was about to jump out at me. I kept checking the rearview mirror like I expected it to be running behind me, keeping up without effort. My knuckles were white on the wheel the whole way, until I saw my own porch light. When I got home, I locked the doors, pulled the blinds, set the chain on the door. Stupid little things, but they made me feel better. It wasn't until later that night, sitting at my kitchen table, that I scrolled through the footage and saw I got those 2 decent photos, with the long arms clear as day. That whole night, I couldn't relax. I paced around the kitchen. I kept checking the security cameras like I expected to see it standing out in the yard. I tried watching TV just to distract myself, but every sound I heard outside made me mute it and listen. Even the dog, who usually barks at raccoons, stayed quiet like she wanted no part of it. I even left the light on in the hallway overnight, something I never do, just so the house didn't feel so dark. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those arms spread wide. The next morning, I dragged myself into work half asleep. I thought about telling the guys at the shop, but small towns don't forget. I pictured the looks, the jokes, and I kept my mouth shut. All day I was jumpy. Loud tools, dropped wrenches. They made me flinch more than they should have. I didn't feel like myself, and it showed. I let the clip sit and just try to forget about it. But then a few days later, my cousin told me about something weird that was spotted 1 county over. Some huge creature that chased a guy, and they're calling it a legit Dogman sighting. He sent me links, and I ended up on this channel. So that was the turning point. I must have replayed my video 20 times that night. Each pause made my stomach turn. It's funny. I've been seeing people complaining in the comments section when footage is blurry or pixelated, but you don't know that's a blessing in disguise. This high-def footage showed more than I wanted to see. I'm not looking for attention. Don't want my name out there. I just wanted someone else to see it so I'd know I wasn't alone. Plus, if there's actually a Dogman running around, we need to join forces or something, or at least share information to keep our family safe. That's why I finally sent the clip in to you all.
Today, I commented on a guy's post. I think his name was Sparkplug. I think that's what it's called. But he was talking about Bigfoot. So I just commented and was like, do y'all know, have y'all ever heard of Dogman, which is somebody that, something, not somebody, something. and it's down here. It's in Mississippi, like in Oxford, Water Valley area. But like we saw it firsthand. So in the morning times, it was morning.
Yeah. Basically, it was a man, like on the tip of the day morning, I'm finna go to work.
And then I always, it probably like 5 in the morning. And it still was kind of dark, but it's kind of, you know, the time, whatever, it's kind of like a little light. And so I always will walk him to the door so that before he go to work. Anyway, so I'm standing out on the outside. He walking to the car and I'm talking to him. And then like he looked where it was like on the outline of the
tree line.
Yeah, the tree line. It was at the tree line. And like we looked and then
man, when I saw it, the thing was like I finna get in the car. Then I just felt weird. Then you know the wind was kind of blowing that morning. Mm-hmm. Then I just looked, just so happened just something told me to look back, and I looked towards the tree line, and I just saw it. You know, at first I just saw it, like saw the legs, cause it was so tall. So I just, just looked up and I saw it. Then by that time, it's like right there, face up in the trees, and it just started coming towards me. That's when I took off and started running toward the house.
And then when he took off, like I seen him look, and then he was like kind of like, what the, something like that.
Yeah.
And then I looked. By the time I looked, he had already finna start running. But then, and this never be scared.
Never.
So when I seen he was scared, I got scared.
Man, it was time to be scared. Like, I knew I ain't had nothing to kill it with. I knew he would have attacked. I mean, that's why I ran. I knew it was over with. If he would have got it, would have attacked, it was over with.
Man, tallest. And then it was like unproportioned. It was like the bottom half was like smaller than the top half was like.
Yeah, the muscular, like big.
Like built. Like, I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. And then, so we running back in the house and we had like one screen door and it was like just a little open area. And then you had to go through the other door to get to the thing. So we had to run through 2 doors, but we locked the door, of course, whatever. But we heard something hit the house.
Yeah, it hit it hard too.
Yeah, like on the side where like the tree line was, like it hit the house.
Right, it wanted to come in the house.
And like there was some scary shit. To see this scared. That was
it was time to be scared, like for real. I saw it. Like it was gonna be no match. He was gonna slaughter. Yeah. Even with a gun.
Yeah. And so that was in Water Valley at our house. So like it's still out there. We ain't never seen it no more. But that made us be a lot more cautious when we going out that door, especially when it's still dark, because I ain't heard of being caught.
I mean, hey, me either. I mean, y'all ain't either probably, but it gotta be still out there. Y'all ain't heard on the news that it been shot or killed or none of this.
They probably wouldn't even put it on the news no way, because they'll try to keep the public down. But no, that's real.
Yeah, it's real. I mean, it's out there for real though.
Real talk.
Suburban Ohio is a patchwork of farmlands, 2-lane highways, and quaint small towns. But within this bucolic region, there have been numerous alleged sightings of a dark, predatory creature known to locals as the Dogman. The first reported encounter originated in the small Ohio town of Defiance.
On July 25th, 1972, 2 workers are out working on the railroad tracks in the early morning, and one of the workers, a man named Ted Davis, gets hit in the back of the head with a 2x4.
The worker was clearly injured, but it's what he said that ambushed him that really caught everyone's attention. In his police report, he said that this predator looked like a wolf-like beast walking on 2 legs.
That same year, the Defiance Police Department receives 2 more reports of sightings. In one of them, a grocery store worker reports seeing a dog-like creature that's very large run right in front of his car.
After the 3rd report, the department opens an official investigation. The chief, Donald Breckler, is quoted saying, "We're taking it seriously. We're concerned about the safety of our people." Across the state of Ohio, More than 35 towns and counties have reported sightings. They report an aggressive creature targeting livestock, animals, even humans.
Judge Shane Luthold believes the Dogman hunted him down on a remote country road in the small town of Bucyrus, Ohio.
I was a trial lawyer for 17 years in my hometown, and then I eventually became judge. And that's what I've been doing for almost 11 years now. I deal with evidence, and what is evidence? I know what I saw. No one will ever convince me that I didn't see what I saw. It was 1985. I'd have been 15. I was a young high school athlete. I ran cross country and track. I was training for the Bratwurst Festival 10K. Now, I was born a country boy, played hide and go seek in barns at night. I wasn't scared of the dark. I'd always start off the first half mile pretty slow, and as I got more loose, I'd pick up speed. And I get the first 2.5 miles in. It was 100% uneventful. And I turn around and I'm coming back. And there's something, the best way I can describe it is I got this kind of goosebumps up the back of my neck, and I just had this really eerie feeling that something was staring at me. I physically stopped. I'm thinking there's something in there, like something is watching me, and it was weird. And as I was looking, I noticed something in the cornfield was like making a circular motion in the corn. Whatever was making this corn move was big. And so I'm watching this thinking, well, that has to be a deer or multiple deer. And then all of a sudden it stopped. And now I feel a little creeped out. There are no bears in Northwest Ohio. There are no wolves. So my first instinct is, I need to get out of here. So I decide, you know what, I'm just going to take off running. And that's when it all began.
But the moment he decides to run, whatever's in the corn does the same.
It takes off running with me, pacing me perfectly as I'm running. Now that's not deer behavior whatsoever. Deer run away from you. They don't follow you. They don't pace you. And I can see the rows moving, but it's not in the first row of corn. It's 2 or 3 rows deep, so I can't see it. So I stop. And when I stop, it stops perfectly. Like, it stops perfectly. It doesn't run in front of me. It doesn't stop behind me. It stops exactly where I am. And that's when I started to get really scared. I take off as fast as I can run, as fast as I can run, like I'm Jesse Owens at the Olympics. Anybody that's ever ran in a cornfield, the rows are tight. It is really difficult. The sheer amount of corn that was moving, whoosh, 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 I knew it was big. I had this massive adrenaline dump, and then you just kind of burn it out. And so I had to stop. And when I stopped, it stopped. This thing, it was toying with me. I was being stalked. I was terrified that whatever was in that corn was going to get me. I'm starting to hyperventilate. I'm thinking, okay, let's try this again, but not as fast. I've got a half mile, and I know the corn's going to end. My house is to the right. I was going to intersect with it. I was going to run right into it. And I remembered that a good friend of mine lived to the left. I'm going to go left and go to my friend's house. But I knew that whatever that was in the corn was going to come out of the corn. I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer. Hearts just boom, 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 boom. As I got to the end of the corn, I turned, and that's when I saw it. This thing walked out of the corn, and it was about 6 foot tall. It had the head of a dog, looked like a German Shepherd's head, high pointed ears. And I noticed that it had these long arms that hung down past its knees. Its shoulders were rolled forward like this. And it turned. I remember like locking in on it. I knew when I saw it that this was absolutely a predator. And if it wanted to kill me, it absolutely could kill me. It was just terrifying. This primal feeling of you have to run. You have to run. I didn't believe there was a person alive that could have ran faster than me. It was a flailing, like screaming type thing. I thought for sure it was catching me. It's behind me. It's going to catch me. I was running for my life, literally running for my life. It was after 8 o'clock. It was getting dark. I get to my buddy's house and they had an in-ground pool, and I just dove headfirst into the pool. I thought I could distance myself from it. I was sitting on the bottom with my nose plugged, and I'm looking back and forth. I kept thinking any second I'm going to see it sitting on the side of the pool, just waiting for me to surface, and it's going to reach out with those long arms and grab me. What was going through my mind? Hold your breath. And my lungs were like burning for air. I finally come up. And when I came up, I'm doing one of these things, looking around. I don't see it. When I jumped out of the pool, it was a mad dash. Not until I ripped that door open, got in, latched it. That's when I finally felt safe. I guess I never really thought it was going to be locked. It was the 80s in the country and nobody broke into your house. I remember crawling on all fours and pulling curtains and putting my eye up, looking to see if it was out there. I ended up spending the night at his house because there was no way I was going back outside. I don't care if my parents pulled in the car. I wasn't walking outside those doors at night. It wasn't happening. So I ended up staying the night there.
The terror of that night never fades, and neither does Shane's search for answers.
Do I think there's a preponderance of the evidence that it's real? Absolutely. In a court of law, I think you could prove that Dogman exists. I don't know if I've been in a cornfield since 1985.
So out there in Blanco, Oklahoma, Alicia Maxey pulled up to her house to talk about a job opportunity. When she got out the car and walked towards the doorsteps, she heard a growling sound. When she turned around, she told authorities she seen a tall, wolf-like creature jump on top of her. This thing ripped her to shreds, knocking her unconscious. Of course, the homeowners called the police, and Alicia was immediately rushed to the hospital in critical condition. But luckily, she made it. When she came to, she told the sheriff she never seen a creature like this before in her life. And if y'all see the picture of her in the hospital, ain't no regular dog did that to her. A lot of people are speculating that this was the notorious Dogman in Oklahoma. There's been a lot of sightings in the past, and I think it's waking back up. The sheriff told News her whole body was ripped to shreds. A regular dog not doing that to you. So they went back to the scene and grabbed pieces of her clothing and sent it out to a lab to get some type of DNA results about what type of creature could have done this to her. so they could try to track it down and get more information on this. But if you ask me, it had to been this Dogman creature everybody been talking about. I mean, it really looked like this lady got to fighting with a grizzly bear. Her whole body from head to toe was attacked.
Once my buddy, he had decided to go up on the hill, because we have to go up on the hill at the campgrounds to get cell service. So he was going to go up and check his messages. And he went up on the hill and he's parked. He's got his flip phone out, which that's all we ever used to take pictures, was this flip phone. Well, he's got it out and he's checking his messages. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, this Dogman drops down out of a tree. And it's a black and silver Dogman. The head looks more wolf than it does dog. I mean, it just, more timber wolf, big protruding teeth. But the thing that got me the most was the eyes were amber, glowing amber eyes. And this was in daylight. It was like noon when this happened. And I hate to say this, but I'm going to. He actually got a photo of it. Now, this is nothing that's going to be shared or anything like that, because we all know pictures are subjective. I don't even want to get down that route, but I got to see it firsthand, and it's a pretty scary looking dude. He has the bodybuilder chest, and you can see a little bit of rip, or, six pack as it gets down, but that's as far down as he got the picture. And he just basically snapped him thinking, I'm going to die, but at least I'm going to have a picture of what killed him. And then he said behind him, he heard this loud crack, and this thing jumped over the cart and was gone. And he quickly turned around and didn't even see it. It was so fast, it was gone.
And I immediately got the fear of God in me, because if something was doing something as simple as relieving itself, but not only was it relieving itself, I really got the impression that what it was doing was it was marking its territory, and it snapped its head and it turned to the left and it looked at us. And immediately what we saw told us that this wasn't normal. This wasn't right. The eyes, its eyes, they were glowing, but not only glowing like eye shine, they were like burning from the inside, like there was an energy coming from this thing. And immediately you got the sense of something is really wrong here. What is going on? So you could see the pupils and every aspect of that anatomy of that creature's just eyeballs were so large, again, taken aback and in the mindset of, oh my God, what are we looking at? This can't be real. I'm going to wake up any second, right? And you could see where it was looking. You could see the eyes moving, and you could see which one of it was, we were looking at or it was looking at. And I felt it look at me. And when it did, look at me, and it looked me in the eyes and it looked me up and down, and I felt as if my soul had been bored through. Every part of my body was screaming, something's wrong. You need to get out of there. And we had something that isn't supposed to exist standing there in front of us. And it growled at us. And when it did, it wasn't just a grr. It was so loud and so jarring that we felt it. It was nothing I'd ever heard before. None of us had. And we all immediately got sick. And I felt like you feel in a dream when something's chasing you and you feel like you're running through tar. Your legs don't feel like they want to work. From the thighs down to my ankles, I felt like I was going to drop to my knees. And my best friend to my right later had said he felt similar. My other two friends were bent over. One was dry heaving. The other said he thought he was going to pass out. And then this thing that was shaped somewhat like a man with the most over-exaggerated long arms that looked like it could scratch its toes while standing up straight, took 2 steps off the top of this pile of material. And it was literally so close to us with 2 steps. It had been probably 20 to 25 feet from us, and within 2 steps, it was at least half that distance. And even though we were affected by whatever this thing threw at us in the form of some type of growl, we made our way back in the building and we ran in. It just reinforced this situation of supernatural and wrong. And it stood up again and it threw its arms out to its side, almost like this shirt, very similar. And it just bared its teeth, almost like a sick smile, with its eyes angered. And it looked at the stairs and it looked at us, and then it looked back at the stairs and dropped down to 4. And it ran for those stairs, and immediately I got the sinking feeling as a 14-year-old, and no child should ever think of this, that my life was about to end. And I stared at this thing running up the stairs like it was made of liquid metal or oil, almost a beauty to it, looking like almost a panther using its tail as a rudder as it turned up the different parts of the stairs so that it would stay even. It was using its tail for counterbalance. And its hair was short. It was almost groomed, and its tail was not bushy. It was like a cougar or panther's tail. Very long. Again, the front arms so unrealistic. Again, looking fake. Almost as it's running, it's at an angle a little bit. The front lift up higher because these front arms were so abnormally, nightmarishly long that it was at an angle, and its back legs were not as long as its arms. And it made its way up to the 2nd floor in a blink of an eye, was coming up those stairs, was myth and legend, and flesh and blood and whatever else. And the first person that it would have met would have been me. Someone above, whoever that may be, a higher power, decided to intervene. And a train came by this building and did something that never happened. It yanked on the chain, obviously, that causes the horn to sound. And when it did, of course, it was extremely jarring to everyone, including this creature. And it stopped 6 feet, 7 feet from me. And it looked back at the opening of the building, and it looked back at me. And it did almost a double take. It with the look of almost, I want him, but someone is there now.
Terrifying Dogman encounter in Youngstown, Ohio, in an abandoned steel mill with 3 of his friends when he was only 14 years old. Asked Matt what he thought Dogman was. What do you think Dogman is? Do you think it's supernatural or flesh and blood?
That's a slippery slope for some people. So with my experience, I 100% believe that it was supernatural. I think there's 2 kinds. I think you have your natural ones, the ones that you hear these experiences where the government has even called them their assets. I'm sure you've heard these before. I forget the one gentleman who drove the semi that shot one through his car door and killed it. He came back and one was pulling it back into the woods. He was approached by federal agents and they said, you destroyed one of our assets. Many other stories about governments and that. So I believe that there are supernatural kinds that may have been killed. Government does their DNA, mojo on them, and they've come up with something else. Or there's just, again, there's 2 kind of facets to these things.
A lot of people jump to the conclusion that if you're going to mention something that sounds like a werewolf, well, that's silly because that was all made up by Hollywood. They just created that for purpose of scary movies with Abbott and Costello or something. And that is not true. I mean, those stories have been around a really long time all over the world in pretty much every culture. Correct?
Yeah, like you said, it's kind of a natural impulse that people go, yeah, this is all fiction, this isn't real. We have kind of the Hollywood era of the werewolf starting in the 40s, and it's stuck around really ever since. There's been a new iteration every decade in one form or another. But we can point to as early as 1865, Reverend and author named Sabine Baring Gould wrote The Book of Werewolves. And this was a collection of werewolf folk tales and stories gathered from all over the globe that had been around since way before 1865. If we want to go back far enough, we can look as early as ancient Mesopotamia and see depictions of upright canine forms within their mythology and in their artwork. The idea of the werewolf started with Hollywood. Like you said, that's just not true. They've been here much, much longer.
What's the difference between dogmen and werewolves? You know, the story about werewolves, werecats, werehyenas, those go back around the world centuries.
That's a question of some debate. There's a lot of discussion in the community as to whether or not the terms dogman and werewolf are interchangeable. Can they be used to describe the same thing? Should they be used to describe the same thing? I'm personally of the opinion that they can be used interchangeably. But when we say werewolf, that doesn't necessarily mean we're talking about a shapeshifter, something that transforms under the full moon. Those legends have been around for a very, very, very long time. But then we have this modern element where people are looking at this upright canine form as possibly being a biological species, maybe having some basis in zoology that we just haven't quite figured out yet. And so for a lot of people, that's where the separation of those terms comes from, this idea of dogman versus werewolf. Because these stories have been around for so long, because these descriptors have been used by our ancestors for a very, very long time, and that is the term that witnesses continue to use to describe what they see in the modern day, I personally am of the opinion that we can use them to describe the same thing, especially because the etymological roots are so similar. But again, that's something that people will go back and forth on probably forever.
There's also a terminology battle that could reign in the sense that if you're talking about a dogman, it's a canine that walks on two legs. You could also look at it as a humanoid that happens to have a dog head.
Most of the descriptions we see seem to involve what appears to be basically, like you said, a canine on two legs, which otherwise has canine-like anatomical features. Occasionally, we will get kind of a more bizarre encounter. There are a couple in Texas. There are a few further north. I'm thinking of Michigan specifically, where the descriptors involve a creature that truly appears to be half human, half animal, where it has the head of a dog and otherwise the body of a human being. Those descriptions seem to come few and far between. More often we're looking at least on the surface, what appears to be a normal dog or wolf that is very large and seems comfortable walking on two legs.
After 30 years studying cryptids across 6 continents, I can tell you with absolute certainty that encountering a dogman is far worse than facing a werewolf. The werewolf might tear you apart in a frenzy of lunar madness, but the dogman will hunt you with calculated precision. Study your patterns and choose the exact moment when you are most vulnerable. One operates on instinct and curse, the other on intelligence that borders on human. I have spent 3 decades documenting encounters with both creatures, interviewing survivors, examining evidence, and in some cases, witnessing the aftermath myself. What I have learned has fundamentally changed how I understand the hierarchy of cryptid threats. The werewolf, for all its terrifying power, remains a predictable force tied to cycles and transformation. The dogman exists in a state of permanent evolution, always aware, always calculating. I grew up in the forests of northern Michigan, where my grandfather told stories that the local historical society dismissed as folklore. He spoke of creatures that walked on 2 legs through the pine forests, that stood taller than any man, and that watched our family cabin with eyes that reflected firelight, like polished amber. When I was 19, I saw what my grandfather had described. It stood at the edge of our property for nearly 3 minutes, perfectly still, observing our evening routine through the kitchen window. That sighting led me to abandon my plans for medical school and pursue the documentation of creatures science refused to acknowledge. I have no regrets about that choice, though the knowledge I have gained carries a weight that grows heavier each year. The fundamental difference between werewolves and dogmen lies in their origin and nature. Werewolves, according to every documented case and historical account I have studied, are humans transformed by curse infection, or supernatural affliction. The transformation is involuntary, temporary, and tied to lunar cycles. In most traditions, the human consciousness is either suppressed or twisted during the change, leaving the werewolf operating primarily on predatory instinct. The Dogman, by contrast, appears to be a distinct species that has existed alongside humanity for thousands of years. There is no transformation, no curse to break, no human consciousness buried beneath the animal rage.
I think on one side of it, I think we really do have an entire subspecies of creatures that do exist mostly inside the earth, and they are not readily surface dwelling anymore. Satan leads Yeshua up onto a great high place and says, I shows him all the nations of the earth and all their kingdoms and their reigns in a moment of time. He shows him the future. That's what they do. They can show you what's to come. This is why we get hunted by them. He knows if we're going to be part of his adversaries. He knows if we're going to be on his enemy list. And that's why he targets us at our youth. That's what so happens. So many people, they're like, why has my life been a nightmare from the beginning? It's because you have a purpose and a destiny that adversary absolutely categorically does not want to come to pass. It's a real life Terminator scenario. And so he sends his assets in to destroy people, to ruin their life. And those meeting places happen when they sit down in these rooms and they try to call up these creatures. It's from inside the earth. It wasn't like ethereal mist. They were physical things that would come out of these tunnels. But then I've seen men become not people.
Like literally
not be the people. Yeah.
Okay.
And there is like lycanthropy, and there's these understandings of what the watchers are capable of doing that most people are just woefully ignorant of. And that's why they're perishing. It's because they lack a basic understanding of history. And one of the predominant understandings of what a watcher, specific class of celestial beings, is capable of is augmenting itself. They can shapeshift. That is by their nature. They're literally called metaskizmadzotoi in the Greek in the New Testament. And it's because he says it's marvel not, because Hasatan, you could say like transforms himself. That's a good word for it. But he shapeshifts himself into an angel of light. And his messengers, his apostles, disciples, they do the same thing. And he's like, this is because they are capable of becoming anything they want to be in order to deceive on one side of the equation. And that's what they'll do. And so when people start engaging in these necromantic rituals and other stuff, and they start to seek the embodiment of these celestial ones, they can get these things on them and in them, and they can't contain them. And some of these guys who are messing with this stuff, who don't come from the bloodline, are incapable of cohabitating like a parasite, and they feed off of each other and they can't handle it. And so that's why families are recruited from these bloodlines, and children are recruited out, even if they don't know anything about it. Like you said, the vast majority of people who come from these bloodlines, there's a lot of muddying of the waters. There's a lot of purity that's been changed. There's a lot of half-breeds. There's a lot of quarter breeds, right? There's a lot of people that don't know this stuff, and they start to get into lesser magic. And all of a sudden, it's like the doors of everybody open to them. But that's why. It's because they can host these things better. Whereas those that don't, they get taken over by this stuff, and they can't change back. They can't return, in a sense. Like, people become completely possessed and are incapable of expelling the darkness after that. And who do you turn to? You're like, you're going to go to the Catholic guy who's all into the same thing that you're into, you know? Like, most people don't understand what a real deliverance is required for somebody that has gone down this far down, where they are the consuming people. Like, that's a deep, devastating psychological, spiritual shock.
I think that these things do exist. They come into existence possibly through what you had just said, like ritual. Then I believe that these things might be more interdimensional as well. Look the same, but maybe come from different origins. But I also believe that there is an element where there are elites who understand what is going on and what is out there, and there's replication. With all that, when it comes to this specific topic, but in general, there's got to be like these curveballs that happen. If that man has a were spirit in him, you can cast that thing out. But what if something is maybe coming from another realm, or even created by an organization? And I'm asking this very open-ended because I don't have an answer to it.
Yeah.
Like, but it leaves you scratching your head because you're wondering, well, how do you handle something that was created and it looks like this? Maybe it was grown in a lab, but it's not a demon. It's not an entity. It's not a spirit possessing a man. How do we even handle that? You know, that just kind of makes me left holding a bag scratching my head again.
Yeah.
Similar things happen with, aliens too.
Yeah.
Like there are times people will be in an abduction. They'll cry out to Jesus and the abduction stops immediately. There's tons of documented cases like that.
Now, if you look at quantum entanglement and the concepts of the universe being a holographic conscious entity, which it is, then you start talking about not just material, but you're also talking about other dimensions that are at refined levels of frequencies and vibration. So the speed of light, the speed of electrons, atoms, what have you, all of that would pertain to what we call the 3D, three-dimensional. If you were to cross over that in frequencies, and this is, again, where you start getting into some very strange WSFM, like I mentioned, phenomenon, then you're talking about other embedded dimensions, but it's not like it's some distant place, it's folded within. So, a hologram, if you look at a hologram of Marilyn Monroe with her dress blowing up, like that. Mm-hmm. If you were to just zoom in on one little piece of that dress on the edge of her skirt, and zoom in on it, the entire image would be in there, and zoom in again, it's holographic. So you have to kind of get your mind around the cosmos is this conscious quantum hologram. And so there are many, many, many dimensions, not just this plane of 3-dimension, that is all enfolded within it.
You think werewolves are scary? That's adorable. Let me introduce you to something much worse. We've all heard of the werewolf, a human who transforms usually under a full moon. It's a curse tied to folklore and horror movies. They change back. There's usually remorse, sometimes even humanity left inside. But the Dogman, no transformation, no human side. It's not a man. It just has a body like one, sort of. But it never shifts. It's always like that. Some people say it's flesh and blood. Others say it's interdimensional, and many people have said that they feel an uneasiness before they see it. The air almost becomes electric, like before a thunderstorm. It's been speculated that dogmen enjoy scaring people and getting their adrenaline flowing. But here's the creepiest part. Werewolves, they want to feed on flesh. Dogmen, they want to feed on your energy, your fear, your panic, that rush of adrenaline. They don't need to attack you to get it. They just need you to feel it. So they follow you back to your car. They pace the tree line just out of sight. They scratch the side of your tent when you're frozen inside. And when you finally look, they're standing there, still watching, feeding. So next time you hear a weird, unsettling howl in the distance, ask yourself, is it a werewolf? Or is it something already watching you?
You've done a film on the Dogman, right?
Yeah. The story is that this kid, 15 years old, going coon hunting in the Kentucky Daniel Boone National Forest. He was with his grandfather. His grandfather was so old that he couldn't get out of the truck to go hunting with him. They had radios. They let the dogs go. They had 2 hunting dogs. Jake and Bo. Jake was the older dog, and then Bo was a new dog that Jake was training. The dogs take off. They have a scent, and he's tracking. And you can hear there's these coyotes coming in, and they start fighting his dogs. And Bo, the younger dog, he said you could hear Bo yep and then run away. So he's trying to get there, and all of a sudden he hears Jake come back, and the fight changes. These coyotes run off. He arrives on the scene. He pats Jake on the head, and Bo, he's on the other side of the tree. And so he hears Bo on the other side, and it sounds like he's eating a coyote. And when he comes around the tree, he realizes that Bo never came back. And what he was looking at was a dog that was so big that it was holding a coyote by its rib cage in its mouth. It was on all 4, and this dog sees him, and it stops chewing down on the coyote, and it stares at him. And then it did something that he didn't expect. It stood up on its hind legs. Dude. And then the dog took a step forward towards him, but he took off running. This thing took chase. Jake, his veteran dog, interfered. He said that this thing grabbed Jake and just hurled it through the woods. And you could hear Jake's body just crashing through trees. And he's like, my dog is done. He's running, and he trips over like a log or something, and he finds himself on his backside facing this thing. And then out of nowhere, his dog again comes in and broadsides this thing and just viciously starts going after it. And he gets gets up and he starts running. He seriously hears this thing just tearing his dog to pieces.
Oh my God.
Like he can just hear it just ripping his dog apart. He's calling for Jake. Come on, Jake, come on. Jake's not coming. He runs to the truck where his grandfather is. And his grandfather's like, what's going on? And he's like, just go, just go. He's telling his grandfather what happened. They get out of the woods. His grandfather said to him, listen, if you're going to hunt these woods, you have to understand there are things about this woods that are not normal. And if you can't come to grips with that, you shouldn't be hunting these woods.
Now, Dogman sightings go back as far as the 1800s in Michigan, but they have been seen all across the United States. Now, people often describe the Dogman as having the face of a wolf or a coyote, the torso of a man, and the lower half of a wolf or a coyote. Now, it's often said that they stand between 7 and 8 feet tall, and they have these bright amber-colored eyes. So this is a story I heard from a guy named Sam. Now, Sam said he was in the Manistee National Forest. And one night, him and his girlfriend, they're driving down this pretty windy rural road. And he said as he was driving, he all of a sudden notices this truck swerve into his lane and swerve back over out of the way. He almost hits this truck. As he passes this truck, he sees up ahead why this truck swerved. There is something in the road, and it's kind of hunched over. He slows down the car, turns on his brights, and he can see what looks like a wolf, but has, man-like features. And this thing is eating a deer. Now, he slowly drives by this thing. This thing recognizes them and lets out this humanly horrible scream. And he realizes once this thing has noticed him that he needs to get out of there. So he takes off down the road, and he said at the time his vehicle, the fastest it would go was about 60 miles an hour. This thing, whatever it was, started running after him, and it's keeping pace with him. And he's just, continuously looking back. Well, at the time, he said he had kept his window down, and he didn't even think about rolling it up. All of a sudden, this thing gets up to the side of their vehicle, and it reaches its arm in and grabs his shoulder and actually rips his shirt. Right at this moment, he's turning around a curve, and this thing breaks off into the woods. So he drives about a mile, and he thinks, okay, I've lost this thing, right? All of a sudden, they hear like a loud thumping sound on the back of the car. And when they look back, this thing is standing on the trunk of the car, and it just punches its hand through the windshield and starts trying to reach in the car. Well, he almost goes off the road. He slams on the brakes, and this thing just goes flying. And he said the next thing, it just took off running into the woods screaming. So him and his girlfriend, they're pretty shooken up. They don't know what to do. They go to the sheriff's office, and at the time, the sheriff wasn't there. There was, one of his deputies. And they tell them, we seen this thing. It chased our car. And at the time, the deputy takes them individually into a room and is interviewing him. They're terrified. They're telling the same exact story. He doesn't know what to do. He calls up the sheriff and is like, hey, there's some kids. They say they've seen this thing. They're pretty shaken up. What do I do? The sheriff says, send them home. Don't talk about it anymore. And he goes, but, it's kind of like, shouldn't we be telling people there's something out there? And he said, no, just don't talk about it. Tell them to go home. Everything will be all right. So he sent them home. And still to this day, he has this fear of driving through the woods at night. This next story I heard comes out of West Virginia. There was this guy who said that him and his friends had all went camping out in the woods in this particular spot. And he said during the day, they were kind of exploring this area. Well, they found this old wooden cellar door. And when they opened it, inside of it were all of these carcasses. And they said they all of a sudden heard something moving around down there. So they closed it and took off running. Well, they end up going back to their campsite and start telling stories, and it starts to get late. So this guy said he went back to his tent. He goes to bed. In the middle of the night, he said he woke up to like water droplets like dropping on his face. And he's like, wait a second, like this is like dog saliva. And he said when he looked up, there was this half man, half coyote looking thing standing over the top of him in the tent. And he said this thing was just sniffing him and kind of just like moving around his face. And he said the next thing he knew, this thing just looked at him and put his finger in front of his face. And he said he fell asleep, and the next thing he knows, like when he woke up in the morning, it was gone, and there was no sign of this thing. So they hightailed it out of there.
People camping in Utah's Uinta Mountains have reported seeing something standing on two legs, covered in fur with the head of a wolf, and eyes reflecting in the darkness. Today, we're heading deep into the forests of northeastern Utah to explore reports of a creature many witnesses compare to something straight out of a werewolf story. The Uinta Mountains are one of the strangest regions in the American West, stretching across northeastern Utah. The range is filled with dense forests, remote valleys, and miles of wilderness where a person can disappear from civilization in a matter of minutes. The Uintas are also famous for strange folklore, unusual wildlife encounters, and stories that seem to blur the line between cryptid and legend. Among those stories are reports of a creature commonly described as a dogman. Witnesses describe seeing a large, muscular figure covered in dark fur. Unlike a normal wolf, it appears to stand upright on two legs. Many reports mention broad shoulders, unusually long arms, and a canine head with pointed ears. The creature is often reported at night near campsites, remote roads, or forest clearings. One recurring detail appears again and again. Witnesses often claim the creature seemed intelligent rather than acting like a wild animal. It reportedly watched from a distance, observing people before disappearing back into the trees. Several campers have reported hearing heavy footsteps circling campsites after dark. Others describe seeing glowing eyes reflected in flashlights before a large shape vanished into the forest. Hunters have occasionally shared stories of finding unusually large tracks in muddy areas that seemed too large for a wolf and too animal-like to belong to a human. Of course, skeptics point out that the Uinta Mountains are home to black bears, elk, moose, and other wildlife that can appear surprisingly strange in low-light conditions. A bear standing upright for even a few seconds can easily look unsettling from a distance. Add darkness, isolation, and a healthy dose of fear, and ordinary wildlife can quickly become extraordinary. But not everyone is convinced. Some witnesses insist what they saw moved in ways no bear could. Others claim the creature ran on two legs before dropping to all fours and disappearing into the forest. These reports have led many cryptid enthusiasts to connect Utah's sightings with Dogman legends reported throughout North America. Unlike Bigfoot, which is generally described as ape-like, Dogman reports focus on a creature that appears distinctly canine, a wolf-headed figure walking upright, a creature that sounds impossible, yet one that continues to appear in reports from forests, mountains, and remote roads across the continent. So what are people seeing in the Uintas? A misidentified bear, an unknown animal, a trick of darkness and fear, or something far stranger, hiding among Utah's forests.
He had tried everything. He had prayed. He had worked. He had begged. But nothing could save his crops from the relentless dust that choked life out of them. His wife and children were starving, and he had no money to buy food or move to a better place. He felt like a failure, a burden, a curse. Between the Dust Bowl and what they were calling a depression, he felt helpless. One night he decided to do the unthinkable. He walked to the crossroads where he heard stories of a man who grant any wish for a price. He waited until midnight. He didn't have to wait long. A tall, dark figure appeared out of the shadows, wearing a suit and a hat. He had a smile that was both charming and sinister, and his eyes glowed red in the dark. "Hello, friend," he said in a smooth voice. "What can I do you for?" The man swallowed hard and said, "I need food for my family. I need a good harvest in my fields. I need a way out of this." The figure nodded and said, "I can give you all that and more. But you know the deal, right? You have to give me something in return. Something very precious. Something you can never get back." The man hesitated, but he was desperate. He thought of his wife and children and how much he loved them. He thought of how much they suffered. He thought of how much he hated himself and how little he valued his own life. The poor gentleman finally spoke. "I'll give you my soul. Take it." The devil grinned and said, "Done. But there's a catch. You see, I don't just want your soul. I want your body too. I want to make you into something new, something different, something special." The man felt a surge of fear and said, "What are you going to do to me?" The figure said, "You see soon enough. But don't worry. You get your wish. Your fields will be green and fertile. Your family will have plenty of food. But you won't be there to enjoy it. You'll be roaming the land as a beast of the night, a creature of legend. A Dogman man tried to back away, but it was too late. He snapped his fingers and a bolt of lightning struck the man. He screamed in agony as he felt his body change. His bones cracked, the muscles stretched, his skin sprouted fur, his face elongated, his teeth sharpened, his ears perked, his hands and feet became paws, his nails became claws, his eyes became yellow. He collapsed on the ground, no longer a man, but a monster. Half man, half dog creature. He looked at the figure who was laughing wickedly. Welcome to your new life, Dogman.
Just seen something over in the woods, Chris. And I don't know if you can see this or not. Do you see that? Do you see that? I'm afraid. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Valley, did you see that?
Kyle, come. Kyle, come.
Bruce, I heard something. It sounded like a monster.
Oh, are you reading me? Come in. Hello?
Thank you for watching. If these Dogman encounters sent a chill down your spine, make sure to subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments below. As always, stay safe, stay aware, question everything, and remember, out there in those woods, something might be watching.